Hello and welcome to today's episode in which I show you how to make a nice and easy dish that's going to be perfect for cooking for yourself after work midweek, but also nice enough to serve to friends if you're having them over for dinner. I bought these fresh beetroot the other day when I was making the confit bialdi, the ratatouille from Ratatouille. Thought about putting these in the end I didn't bother, so it's left me with beetroots that need to be cooked. I was having a look through my little flavour thesaurus to get some inspiration, and it said beetroot goes really well with walnut. So my plan is to roast off some beetroots along with sweet potato and red onions. I'm going to do those in the air fryer. Then I'm also going to cook off a variety of grains. I'll do some quinoa, which is just a really nice tasty grain, lovely flavour and a nice good amount of protein in there as well. I suddenly remembered I've got this amaranth grain. This is known as an ancient grain. It's what we've been eating for tens of thousands of years. And I want to say it's a pseudo grain. I'll pop some links down in the description to expand on that a little bit for you. I'm going to do some freekeh. This is quite popular in North African cuisine. It's green durum wheat that's been roasted and it gives it a nice kind of toasty flavour. And this one technically isn't a grain, but I'm also going to pop in some giant couscous. This is made from a dough of wheat flour and water, and they kind of shape it into little balls and they swell up and become nice and bouncy. To serve it, all I'm going to do is mix the grains together, dress the top of it with the roast vegetable pieces, and then I'll add toasted walnuts, and then I've got pine nuts also toasted. I toasted both of these in the air fryer. The walnuts I did 165 for, I want to say like 8 minutes-ish, and the pine nuts I did for 6 minutes at 160. When you're toasting nuts, whether it's in the air fryer, a pan or in the oven, you need to keep an eye on it because they're so fatty, they can burn really quickly. So always better to go lower temperature if you're not sure. I'm going to make a nice maple syrup vinaigrette salad dressing. If I've got the time/energy, I'm also going to make some of the tuiles that I made on the leek and cheddar risotto. Just grate down some vegan cheese nice and finely and then put it in a pan and it melts. And then once you cool it down, it becomes like a nice crispy shard. I wanted some vegan feta to put on it, but the shop didn't have any and I couldn't get to the big shop in time. It's been a while since I've roasted hard veg in the air fryer, so I'm going to do those first because I'm assuming that's going to take the longest. The freekeh and the amaranth apparently take 20 minutes, so that's going to be the longest of the 4. Because I'm handling beetroot, I'm going to put some gloves on, just so I don't end up with pink hands for the rest of the week. When you're dealing with beetroot, I'd also suggest not using a really good board, which is why I've pulled out this crappy IKEA one, I think it is, that I don't really use because I use the wooden ones, but the wooden ones will stain really easily. Actually, I might do the beetroot last because I need to mix things with my hands. All of the sweet potatoes at the shop were massive. It's not necessarily the ideal size I wanted, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm just going to peel that. Yeah, about like that, and then maybe in half. So it's going that kind of size. They are going to shrink as they roast. So then for that kind of size, do that into quarters. Or do I want them a bit smaller? Yeah, so I'm going to go for more mouth-sized kind of pieces. So the veg I'm using, I kind of did because I had to base things around the beetroot. So I've gone for sweet potatoes to add a nice bit of sweetness. And it'll also go nicely with the earthiness of the beetroot. And then the red onion, because onion's amazing. And it'll also add a nice bit of sweetness in there as well. I've got a bulb of garlic there. I think I might put the whole thing in. I'm going to leave the skin on because that will help kind of protect it a little bit so it won't burn as fast in the air fryer. If you see lots of excess papery bits, just take that off. I've had that garlic for a while, so it's sprouting ever so slightly, but that's okay. Then for the onions, I want to keep these in kind of wedge shapes. So I'm going to split them vertically, like that. Peel off the outer layers of skin. So I'm just going to take my knife as close to the end as I can, just to keep that root attached as much as possible. So I'm going to go through the middle. And then, let's have a look. Yeah, I'll try and get thirds. And you want to try and keep this bit attached. I think I'm going to put on the seasoning bits in the oil before starting the beetroot, just so then I'm not having to go back and forth messing around with pink hands. I've got some fresh thyme that I've picked off the Smart Garden. Not sure how much I'll use, let's have a look. I've kept back a little bit and I think I'll use that in the dressing. And then the rest of it, I think I'm going to do stem and everything, but I'm going to take it down really fine. This particular thyme isn't very woody, the way that some thyme can be, which is why I'm using the stalk as well. But if the stem on yours is very tough, just pick the leaves off. I'll do about a tablespoon or so of olive oil. Really good grind of black pepper. A large pinch of salt, just over 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm just going to take the sprout end off and then just work the speed peeler around. Peels nice and easily, it's just messy. Cut that in half, flip it over, cut it in half again, and then maybe into 3. Beetroot's got a really nice earthy kind of flavour to it, but if you've never had it unpickled before, it's definitely worth having a try. It's also nice if you shred it raw and have it in salads. I've got some pickled beetroot, kimchi, sauerkraut type of thing. Got some of that in the fridge at the moment. Very, very tasty. It's got a really nice crunch on it. So I'm going to go in with my hands and kind of mix everything through to get everything coated in the oil and herbs and salt and pepper. This is the basket where I keep all my filming equipment, and it comes in a bag. And it's Shadow's favourite place to sleep. Isn't it, wee man? You going to say hi? Are you very beautiful? Yes. Just lining my air fryer basket with some paper, just to make clean up a little bit easier. This is perhaps a little bit too full, but we'll see what we can do. It will start shrinking down as the water comes out of it, so hopefully it'll be all right. I'll just mix it through a few times during cooking. I'm going to go 165, and I'll do 15 minutes to start, and then I'll mix everything through. On to making the grains, and then once all of the grains are kind of sorted, then we'll make the dressing. I'm going to do around 1/2 cup of the freekeh. If you can't find this, feel free to use something like bulgur wheat, which is the same kind of thing, it just hasn't been roasted. So call it 90 grams. I'm going to rinse it under cold water and then put it in the pan. This is the amaranth. Ideally I'd rinse it, but my sieve, the holes are much bigger than that, so they're just going to go straight through. I've got a feeling it's very similar to millet, that unless you absolutely nail the cooking, it can go really gloopy. If that happens, I just won't use it. But I'm going to do 1/3 of a cup, 65 grams. So I've got the freekeh there, and then the amaranth there. I'm just going to pour in some boiling water. For the freekeh, I'm just going to cover it really well in boiling water, and then bring that up to the boil. And then the amaranth, I'm going to do 2.5 times the amount. Pop a little bit of salt into each. We're going to bring that up to the boil and then drop it to a simmer. I don't have lids for these pans. About 100 grams of the quinoa, 1/2 cup. Both pans have come up to the boil fairly quickly. So I'm just going to drop them now to a 3. Mine goes up to 9. We just want a nice low simmer. I'm just going to cover the quinoa in lots of water. The veg has had its first 15 minutes. So let's pull it out, mix things together. So that's starting to get a nice amount of colour on there. So I'm just going to turn everything over. Oh, there's a lot of juice at the bottom, look. Yeah, I might try and ladle some of this out. So that one that's been at the bottom is still rock hard, whereas that one, nice and soft. Put the back in for another 15. For the salad dressing, I'm going to toast off a few spices. So I've got coriander seed and cumin seeds, and then caraway and fennel. Toasting whole spices intensifies the flavour a little bit. So I'll do 1/2 teaspoon of the coriander seeds, 1/2 teaspoon of the cumin seeds, 1/2 teaspoon of fennel seeds, and 1/2 teaspoon of the caraway. Feel free to use whatever spices in here you like. Skip them all together if you don't have them, not a problem. So I'm just going to toast those on the stove on a gentle heat. I'm going to mix up the salad dressing while I wait for the seeds to toast off. I'm using pumpkin seed oil. This has got a nice kind of nutty, deep flavour to it. You could also use walnut, that kind of thing, or just olive oil, that's fine. I just fancied a little bit of a nutty flavour to go with the kind of sweet and earthy flavours of the roast veg. If I had it, I'd use toasted walnut oil, or use some red wine vinegar. Feel free to use apple cider vinegar, white wine vinegar, anything like that, just not malt vinegar, like the stuff you put on chips, because that's just not going to be nice. Some maple syrup to get that nice distinctive maple syrup kind of flavour, and a touch of sweetness. I've got a jar of Dijon mustard that's pretty much finished, so I'm going to pour everything into there, swirl it around just to get the last bits out, and then salt and pepper and the thyme leaves. Do a bit of black pepper, pinch of salt. I'll start with a tablespoon of the red wine vinegar, half a teaspoon of the maple syrup, a good tablespoon of the pumpkin oil. Give that a really good shake. Give that a taste. Yeah, I think that's actually fine. So I'll pick the thyme leaves off, the fresh thyme, and I'll add the spices, and I think that's done. That's the veggies after half an hour. Yeah, I think another 15 and that'll probably be good to go. The grains are all cooked through, so I'm just going to sieve them and put them all in this bowl, and I can put the couscous in next. Got about, well, it's 195 grams by the time it's out of the bag of the couscous. I'd say it's probably around a cup. Pour those in. And then I'm going to cover those in cold water. I did try and look up whether you could use boiling water or if it had to be cold, and I couldn't really find a definitive answer. So I'm just going to go back to draining everything. Here's the couscous after draining. So you can see it goes lovely and fluffy, and it's a good sign when you can see the white border on the outside. That's a good sign that it's cooked. Add in the freekeh. So you can see it's got some big bits, it's got some little bits, a nice kind of firm but tender texture. That's the amaranth, and it has gone a bit porridgey. I'm just boiling the kettle. I might try rinsing it, see if that gets some of that gloopiness off. I've put it in the sieve. See what happens. I'm going to heat up the cast iron pan to make the little cheese twirl thing. I'm just going to grate a mound of cheese on here, using the Cathedral City plant-based. It's on a fairly low heat because we don't want it to happen too quickly. So I'm just going to pour the cheese in, get it in a somewhat even layer. Spices are toasted off, so I'm going to pour them in. Give that a shake. Oh, you idiot. I completely forgot I meant to bang those a little bit in the pestle and mortar. So I think the veg is more or less done. Now it's just waiting for couscous. So I'm going to put this back in the air fryer just to keep warm. There's the twirl, so all the cheese is bubbling. So we just want it to toast, get a nice bit of colour on there. The amaranth is still very clumpy, not quite as gloopy, but a little bit better. I'm just going to try pinging it for a minute, see what happens. The giant couscous is all done, so I'm going to drain that. The couscous has come out a little bit slimy, so I'm just boiling the kettle. I'll rinse it with boiling water and then just let it sit for a second. Here's where we are with the twirl. So I'm just going to give it another minute, I think, and then I'll put it on a cooling rack. And then I'm going to assemble a plate and we'll do some eating. I'll see you in a bit. Our roast veggie salad is done and looking amazing. And the smells coming out of that bowl are incredible. So put the grains on the bottom, piled the roast veg on top, and then scattered it with the walnuts, pine nuts, dressing, and then that's the twirls. And I also scattered on some fresh mint just to give some extra zingy pops of fresh flavour. To get around me forgetting to crush down those spices a bit, I went in with the stick blender, just poured everything into a jug and blitzed it a little bit, which has helped a bit. But I'd advise not forgetting. So just chuck your whole spices into a pestle and mortar, bang it up a few times. Let's dive in. That's incredible. There's lots of lovely roasty flavours from the veg. Then the dressing has got that maple syrup, mustard deliciousness going on. The fresh mint is there, adding a bit of balance. And the vinegar that's in the dressing adds a bit of fresh, like zingy, tangy flavour. Yum. Roasting beetroot brings out a lot of its sugars, so it makes it quite sweet as well as the earthy flavour. And I just got some with the nuts. Yeah, stunning. There's a piece of that twirl. So it adds a nice bit of crunch, but also salty tanginess. If you can find it though, definitely get some feta, like the vegan feta. That'll be amazing in there. You could still do the twirls as well, or make twirls out of feta. A dish like that is going to be light enough for hot weather, but also robust enough for winter and autumn, because there's lots of deep flavours going on, but there's nothing too heavy. So I think it'll be really nice spring, summer, that kind of thing. So it's a nice all year round kind of dish. And it's pretty easy to prepare as well. You know, it just takes a bit of peeling and chopping, cooking the multiple grains if you want multiple grains. If not, you're making a lot less work for yourself if you just want the couscous, for example. The couscous is some of it's a bit mushy. So when I sit and do the edit, I'm going to Google the best way to cook it. I followed the packet instructions, which echoed some other instructions I'd seen online, but yeah, it's a bit, I had to rinse it twice with boiling water, leave it stand, and then I microwaved it a couple of times just to get it steaming, to get some more of the liquid out. I wonder, because it's just wheat, I think treating it more like a pasta, so pouring boiling water into it might be better. And I've got a very vague memory of cooking it years ago, and I toasted it first in the pan. And I did think about doing that, but none of the instructions said to do that, so I didn't. Maybe should have gone with my gut. I wonder if that would have created more of a, I don't know, like a barrier to the liquid on the outside, so it didn't go quite as soft. Nonetheless, it still tastes incredible. If you wanted to cut down on the hassle of cooking multiple things, if you find some pearl barley, so that's the stuff you're looking for. The bag's not open, so I can't show you properly, but you can get a rough idea of the shape through the window there. This is a really good one to keep in the cupboard. I used it in the mixed grain baked risotto type thing. You can use it for all kinds of different recipes, and it's very difficult to overcook. I've done like a baked risotto type thing and I forgot about it. The top went crunchy, but the inside was fine. Just add more water and away you go. It's a really nice one, and it's very cheap as well. It swells up probably 3 times at least, maybe 4, depending on how much liquid you put in there, because it will tolerate a lot of liquid. Pearl barley would be a really nice one if you wanted lots of texture but didn't want to cook off multiple grains. This kind of thing will work with all sorts of different veg that you can roast. So if you like parsnips, leeks, butternut squash, any kind of hardy vegetable that will tolerate roasting is going to work in a dish like that, not a problem. And then you can start playing around with different spice mixtures or herbs, all sorts of different ways of approaching the same dish but in different ways. For that part of the video I say hi and a great big thank you to my community over on Patreon. Having people who support what I'm trying to do is really nice for the soul and my bank balance, let's be honest. If you'd like to join up, give a bit of financial aid. You'll also get some community features, behind the scenes, bonus content, that kind of thing. I'll leave a link to my Patreon in the description for you. If you'd like lots more tasty evidence that vegan food is anything but sticks and mud, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tap the bell icon if you want to get an alert as soon as a new one's published. And then while you're waiting for the next one, there is an enormous back catalogue of videos for you. I'd suggest starting with this one.